Hello and welcome to the debate. I'm your host Sana Maqbool with you at PTV World. In today's show, we're going to be taking a look at two important stories. The first is with reference to the economic reforms in the country and, of course, the efforts that are underway with the finance minister in the U.S. and, of course, our plans to negotiate another program with the IMF. The finance minister in a number of meetings has emphasized what the future direction is going to be with regards to reforms at home that Pakistan is going to have to undertake, emphasizing on implementation of existing reforms and, of course, moving ahead with another program with the IMF, the exact amount of which is not yet clear, but perhaps to the tune of $6 to $8 billion. And this is, of course, something in response to what we've seen previously. Engaging with the IMF has resulted in, particularly in terms of building trust, especially through the standby arrangement that's going to end later this month. But what exactly are going to be the factors that are going to play a key role in these negotiations that are expected to continue shortly after these meetings with the finance minister, as well as with the visit expected in Pakistan mid of May as well. And so this is going to be something that we're going to try and focus on and understand what exactly is going to be the effort forward, particularly in terms of the rating agencies and also the international capital markets, if Pakistan is able to get access to that or not. And so moving forward, what exactly is going to be the policy that Pakistan is going to undertake and how these tough decisions are going to be implemented at home, particularly with the budget also expected later this year. So that's going to be the focus in our first segment, trying and understanding what sort of cooperation can be expected from the IMF, that in its own statement has said that the amount of a new program is not the important matter at the moment. What holds emphasis is the reforms that are needed to be implemented at home in Pakistan. Our next segment is going to take a look at politics in India with the elections kicking off, and of course the BJP and Prime Minister Narendra Modi looking forward to a third term in office. And this is going to be important, particularly in terms of what forecasts and predictors have already announced as the result of the elections, claiming that the BJP will have the majority and we will be seeing Narendra Modi return to power, with what the party's election manifesto also being called Modi's guarantee. It's going to be interesting to see whether or not the kind of promises and the kind of actual issues the people of India have been facing for quite some time, including economic issues, unemployment, and of course with regards to building infrastructure and welfare of the program, that are all seemingly part of the manifesto, but whether or not that is going to be something that will be achieved by Modi remains to be seen. At the same time, what sort of representation will the opposition parties be having in these elections is also important. Putting forward, of course, an ideology opposing that of Hindu nationalism, and also talking about how democracy is under threat due to the BJP being in power, and of course will continue to be so. However, we haven't really seen a strong opposition coming in from the alliance that calls itself India, and so we're going to try and understand what exactly is going to be the move forward and what factors will guide the elections in India, and then what lies ahead for the future of the country. That's going to be our discussion in the second segment of the show today. For this and more, as always, in the studios, I've been joined by senior analysts Farrukh Pitafi and Raja Faisal. And for our first segment on the economic front, we've been joined by Dr. Qais Aslam, who's Professor of Economics at UCP Lahore. Thank you very much, Professor Qais, for joining us and being a part of the discussion. And let me first start with you in terms of where we stand today and what we're trying to achieve. The Finance Minister, of course, has put forward a direction saying that we are going to be entering into another program with the IMF and starting negotiations for that program. And as early as mid of May, he's expecting the visit to come in as well to have broad contours of this agreement also ready. But what sort of contours do you have in mind? What is it going to look like? What are the numbers that we're talking about? And what factors will be affecting this discussion?
Thank you very much. Issues, we know that every time IMF gives us some formula for structural adjustments and reforms, and up till now we have not been able to absolutely do those. What are the restraints? We all know. With a new finance minister who's also a banker, an international banker, and he is promising that in the next 3 years we will have in place those reforms. If we have in place those reforms, then naturally Pakistan would have a direction towards a capitalist free market economy, with government's influence in economics receding. And but the two problems that Pakistan has, the external debt and deficit, or the fiscal deficit. Now, it's a self-contradictory issue, that if your economy does not expand, you cannot bring in the taxes that you are being asked to do that, and by IMF. And if you tax and those who are already taxed, and start taxing those uh, who don't want to be taxed, then the problem is that there are a lot of people who will resent that, but that has to be done. But now the thing is that our economy is somewhere at, I think, from between 0.8 and 1.2% growth, which is not enough. We need money to pay back our previous loans and other commitments that Pakistan has done. We have a very expensive electricity because of the IPP's contract. Our agriculture is not performing because of our water deficit and now floods and climate change and such forth. Our children are either out of school, or those who are in school are not uh, um, technical enough to venture into international markets. Those who are technical are leaving this country. So the challenges are great. The reforms need to happen in the bureaucratic setup, the ease of doing business, uh, and naturally the energy sector, and I think and taxation. So I think we are going to make those promises. IMF is going to accept some of them reluctantly, give us a way forward, and as before, although we are now very serious about FBR reforms, we are very serious about foreign investments, but till such time the local investor does not have confidence in our economy, I think it will be a difficult task. But economics is a difficult task, and so these negotiations, IMF is a very hard taskmaster. Mr. Isaac Dar used to brag that he can deal with them, but he couldn't. Now we have a new Mr. Aurangzeb as a finance minister, and I think he has some rapport with IMF. So let us see what comes out of it. But I am hopeful. I'm hopeful for Pakistan. I'm hopeful for its capitalist sector, and I'm hopeful for these negotiations that are going on with. If we can't solve our own problems, if we can't reform ourselves, then and somebody else to do that, and that is
Right.
IMF.
Yeah, Dr. Kass, you've put rightly that of course Pakistan is going through very hard times right now. One of the statement which actually today I went through, the wording was that we would be suggesting Pakistan to accelerate the reforms and double down on the structure of reforms in order to provide Pakistan with its full potential of growth. What does it mean? Should we be expecting that there will be, further taxes, because we are already seeing that taxes, they are having a huge sort of impact on the budget of every individual living in Pakistan right now. So should Pakistan be ready for further taxes, and if this reforms, these reforms are going to be rapid ones, then can we expect that there will be many other sectors that will be taxed in coming days?
And Dr. Qais, with regards to what you mentioned in terms of Mr. Isagdar leading the team, and now, of course, Mr. Aurangzeb moving forward as well, I want to know how much of an impact will that individual or his team will be able to have on the negotiations with the IMF, given the fact that when the conversation is being centered around reforms and the ability of Pakistan to actually implement them, that seems to be a problem that's not just in the hands of the finance minister or his team, and it's a wider spread problem.
Interestingly speaking, I think Mr. Isagdar has a trust deficit with IMF and with almost everybody. He is the foreign minister, but in the PDM1 government, he could not deliver. Things became more difficult in the context. But if you look at the history of our finance ministers, like Mr. Aurangzeb, there were many such finance ministers and two prime ministers who were imported, who were from Pakistani origin but imported, and some people call them hitmen. I don't know whether Mr. Aurangzeb is a hitman, economic hitman, but what I'm trying to say is that he does not have a trust deficit with IMF, so has a more comfort position. But the question of taxes is, yes, I think IMF is going to stress two things very importantly. Number one is to sell or privatize or restructure the government entities which are uh, white elephants and which are taking away a lot of our much needed finances. And number two is that they would want taxes to increase. IMF also wants now the rich to be taxed. They want service sector to be taxed. They want the real estate to be taxed. They want agriculture to be taxed. But then the problem is, especially with an elected government, that these are actually the people who have supported whoever has come to power, and whether with money or whether with influence. And then our bureaucracy does not want to change. They are very fine people in context, but they don't want to become technocrats. And that is where one of the issues is the inefficiencies that come because of. So yes, I will agree with this, that not only more people will be taxed, but more taxation would happen, and almost most of the way we tax, it becomes an indirect tax, and the burden comes back to the ordinary Pakistanis. So they should expect things, whether it is levies on petrol, whether it is energy costs like electricity and gas and such forth. Uh, if Pakistan succeeds in creating a competition in our energy sector, then maybe things become better than what they are now. These cartels, these so-called mafias and so-called influential people who either don't pay taxes or shift it to the rest. My concern is that those who are already being taxed and are already under the burden, will there be any respite for them? Because we have seen about 13, 14 amnesties for people who have never paid tax. But we have never seen a amnesty for people who have been always paying, especially middle income group people and employees. So, yes, things are going to be more expensive. Remember, this is capitalism. And IMF, their economists are neoclassical economists. They believe in
Hang on, hang on.
they, be- they, be-
Jaja Sahab, I just wanted to sum up. I'm not going to comment on anything else. I just wanted to actually register my protest, and I am sure that Dr. Qais doesn't mean anything by it. But this tendency of ours to actually accuse, earlier he was talking about people fleeing the country, leaving for abroad, and then our tendency to actually try to taint anybody who comes back and works for the country as hitman or imported is very, very unfortunate. I hope that we can avoid that, because who am I to judge anybody's patriotism? People leave the country, and they do. Many of our relatives, friends are very patriotic, had to leave the country, but they came back whenever the country actually called them back.
Yeah, and
it is not the person, it is the action of the person. Are you saying that and the Prime Minister of Pakistan and Musharraf's regime was a very patriotic person? There was another gentleman.
How can I say that he wasn't?
No, no, okay, fair enough. I will I will accept your argument in that context, but it is the deeds that happened, the development and non-development issues that happened and I'm not talking only of Musharraf's regime. There was Mr. Moin Qureshi in that context. There were other people. I will, but what I'm trying to say is that why can't we have people who are competent inside the government, inside the political parties, inside the country. Are they not competent enough that we have always to have a
Dr.
patriotic
Cass,
people
yeah,
bring in
Dr.
from
Cass,
abroad?
Right.
Dr. Cass, in this particular case, would you agree with me that for last 2 years, Pakistan has been facing, troubles when it comes to economy, and these were the very tough times, and of course, extraordinary decisions are made because extraordinary situations were faced, and similar kind of decisions were made by Dr. Shad as well, and similar decisions are being made by the current one as well. Don't you agree that these are extraordinary situations, and that is why extraordinary decisions are being made? And by the
I
way,
will
when we
agree 100%. But the point is, why has this country, with so much resources, so much population, so much good people like you, and have come up to this very difficult situation every time? Because we have
Right.
not
Dr.
educated
Kass,
our
let's also talk a little bit more about the tax reforms. With regards to what has been mentioned earlier, there is one particular aspect that the government has been trying to do and has been tried previously as well, is to get the retail sector in the tax net. And I want your perspective on how much success we're able to achieve so far, and whether or not this means that with the deadline expiring by the end of this month, will we be able to actually have some success in this particular sector?
Are you asking me or?
I'm asking you, Dr. Kass.
Oh, yes, reforms are important, and yes, when we have reforms, somebody gets pained. But I think Dr. Shamshad had already put in place FBR reforms. Only they were not accepted by the election commission. So I think
Right, but
the homework is
I'm
there.
only I'm only talking specifically about the retail sector policy that the government has adopted just recently.
I think retail sector should be taxed. Everybody who earns an income in this country should be taxed. We should not have
But how are we going to
some
achieve
people
that?
not being taxed and others being
How
taxed.
are we
I
going to
think
achieve
everybody
that?
should be taxed and retail should be taxed.
Sure. But Dr. Kass, how are we going to achieve that, given the fact that so far the numbers in terms of the program, the deadline that has been launched, are not very encouraging?
Look, when we talked about these extraordinary situations, then extraordinary measures are taken. And I did not I did use the word economic hitman, but not for this gentleman. But I have great trust in this government's wanting to reform. So time will tell, but I think whatever the case, at least that has been said, that even people go to on the streets, the tax, they will have to pay the tax. So I believe that that is going to happen irrespectively whether people have retail sector or the service
Right.
sector, they will have to pay tax. This cannot happen. The country cannot run on gray economy or the black economy. It has to give confidence to its white economy. People who pay tax, they should be, and I think others who have earned an income from this country should pay tax in this country.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Qais Aslam, for joining us and being a part of the discussion. It was nice having you on the show. We're now going to be moving on to our next segment that takes a look at what is going on within the region, particularly in terms of the politics of India, how we're going to be taking a look at what is happening in the country and what sort of activities will transpire as part of the elections, who are, of course, going to be the main political drivers moving forward, and what exactly is the perspective that the world has with regards to these elections, because with many reports coming in from these elections, it seems that the results have already been announced. Faisal, when we take a look at the BJP and Modi and how exactly they have had the previous 2 terms in office as well, and with the 3rd term, of course, likely as well, what exactly will then be the main crux on which they're basing on these particular elections? They say, of course, it's their manifesto, Modi's guarantee, focusing on welfare, on infrastructure development, on creating jobs. But is it not the ideology and Hindu nationalism that they're promoting?
It is, Sana. And when it comes to, of course, BJP's previous 2 governments, I mean, the tendency was shown in them that the very first government, they actually started empowering people who were the hardliners, and we kept on seeing whatever they were doing in their country, and they initiated cases against Muslims. Of course, the Babri mosque case is one of them, Babri Masjid case was one of them, and people who were involved, crimes against Muslims and crimes against other religions as well within India, they were actually let free. In the first government, they started doing that, and in the second one, what they started doing is that the institutions that are considered as the most powerful institutions of India as a country, then the heads of them institutions, they were sort of hand-picked people who were inclined towards the hardliners, inclined towards somehow towards the Hindutva ideology. I mean, one of such examples I would give is the of General Pandey. General Pandey, Manoj Pandey, is someone who's actually chief of the army staff right now of Indian military, and he's someone who actually was born and hails from Nagpur, and Nagpur happens to be the headquarter of RSS, Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh, and of course his whole family and anyone who's around him, they are lifelong members of RSS, and this was the reason that he actually became chief of the army staff, though he hailed from engineers corps, and engineers corps is considered to be sort of in Indian military history, there was none of the chief of the army staff who actually hailed from engineers corps. And when we talk about during while he was serving as lieutenant general, he was appointed twice on as a corps commander on the very important positions. This shows that people who were the handpicked, who were with these kind of connections, they were favored. And same is the case with the Indian judicial system as well. I have been noticing that in recent past, I mean, the decisions which were taking place, it had a rubber stamp on their decisions, I mean, which couldn't be seen openly, but of course it had the rubber stamp of BJP and RSS ideology, and the kind of pressure they had created on the streets of India. It shows that they are dictating, and Modi has started dictating, and the third term, if he gets, of course it would be more brutal, because we have already started seeing that Congress party was smashed with a fine very recently, and that fine is of that nature that Congress itself is saying that our own budget is not of that kind that we can actually pay these kind of fines. Yeah. And when it comes to Aam Aadmi Party,
but Supreme Court stayed that.
Aam Aadmi Party, of course, a leader of the Aam Aadmi Party, he was of course arrested and then later on let free, but he was arrested, and many more leaders, the opposition leaders, they were actually arrested, and they were their businesses were hit, and they were squeezed. Why? Because only one reason, that they, by hook or by crook, Modi wants to come back once more, BJP wants to grab on power once more, and BJP wants to make sure that India is run through this hardliner ideology called RSS, and BJP, that is always been considered as a political offshoot of RSS, would keep on ruling.
Right. Farrukh, when we take a look at, of course, the allegations with regards to the opposition party saying that there's a crackdown on them, and while that may be so, I want to understand still that despite all of that, does the opposition party still puts up a strong fight against the BJP in any way? Are they still able to sort of build upon whatever cracks the BJP government had in the previous two terms, or is their stance in itself weak?
Right. I don't think that their stance is weak, or it was even weak even in 2019. In 2014, they might have actually gone through some problem of entire incumbency, and that's why they lost massively. In 2019, I think that it was Pakistan, the tiff with Pakistan, that actually hijacked the election, and that changed the direction so much so that their voices were not being heard. I think that this time Rahul Gandhi has actually gone on for two nationwide yatras, right? One on his feet for 4,500 kilometers, right? So that is, and after that he has interacted, and if you look at their manifesto, which is incredibly good, I must say. So I don't think that there is a problem of competence, but there is something else. You have to look at how much advantage, psychological and physical, does the BJP enjoy, and then you realize what exactly is going on. In 2014, actually in the run-up to 2014 election, there was violence or rights. There were rights, Muslim Hindu rights in Muzaffarnagar, right? And then of course there was also Anna Hazare's big movement against alleged corruption, also Colgate and others. Similarly, in 2019, as I pointed out, there was confrontation on Pulwama. So this time, when there isn't any big thing to actually hijack the whole narrative, the opposition is worried that perhaps it actually shows some kind of upgrade in the calculus of BJP, that now they don't even need such a kind of firestorm to actually hijack. So there is the psychological pressure. And then of course the media is totally controlled by the ruling party. Similarly, pollsters all are actually answerable to the ruling party as well. So all this light bending exercise is there. But today's election is today's phase is interesting because it is the first phase, but it is the largest phase, Sana. In 21 states of India, 102 seats were contested. And in that Tamil Nadu, where Narendra Modi has been repeatedly visiting, there too, all the seats were at stake, and they have, Tamil Nadu has actually voted for the whole thing, and now there isn't going to be any Tamil Nadu phase 2 to phase 3, phase 4. Similarly, earlier Faisal was talking about General Pandey. For mercifully, General Pandey is not on the ballot, and amazingly, even General B.K. Singh, the heaviest hitter of BJP in the last election, even he is not on the ballot, right? But who is on the ballot? From Maharashtra, the seat that he mentioned, called Nagpur, which is the heartland of RSS, Nitin Gadkari, the sitting transport minister, is returning, and he was thought to be, if not a challenger to Modi, at least to Amit Shah's succession attempt, right? And the turnout has actually been below 50%. And halfway through the day, Nitin Gadkari was heard actually calling for people to show up. So there is something very interesting that is going on. I think that we don't know what exactly is logged in the EVMs in these 102 seats, but what we know is what are the areas that BJP is still trying to address. That would show you, or the media, client media is trying to show, that would show you what exactly is the nature of the beast and what are the concerns, what are the heavy points that the opposition might have. Going back to your original question. One thing, Mengai, inflation, unemployment, electoral bonds, right? They have tried to underplay all of these things. That means that something is actually influencing the vote in favor of the opposition India party, India Alliance, because India Alliance is playing on these planks also. So I think that at this moment it still remains to be seen what exactly how things shake out. But when it comes to turnout, amazingly, usually what happens is, like in Tamil Nadu, when the turnout is high, usually it can be interpreted as anti-incumbency or pro-incumbency. But low turnout is usually for pro-incumbency, right, in Tamil Nadu. So in Tamil Nadu also, the turnout has been low. That means that BJP will not be able to open an account in Tamil Nadu.
Right, but has the opposition been able to really play on those planks successfully?
I mean, at this moment, the biggest strength of the opposition is how much you and I are underplaying its chances, right? When you have that kind of, zero expectations from you, you can always excel. And remember that this time it seems that the biggest success of the opposition parties is this India alliance, because they have managed to cobble together parties, an alliance that complements. For example, in Delhi, right, where today Delhi was not voting, but Delhi is going to vote later. In Delhi, there are 7 seats, and usually Aam Aadmi Party's voter goes and votes for whom? BJP there, right? BJP swept in 2019 there. But this time, because there's an alliance between Aam Aadmi Party and Congress, there's a seat sharing, 3 seats to Congress and 4 seats to Aam Aadmi Party. So there's a good chance that they are going to sweep the election. So similarly, in other places also, the complement has been very effective. So in coming days, India Alliance is going to have is actually going to surpass your expectations and perhaps surprise you. Although I'm not saying that they are going to actually form the government. At least so far, the opposition leader's post in the Lok Sabha has been empty. You know that, right? Because no party could actually cross the threshold. This time, what I'm seeing is at least Kharge Sahab, who is the head of not only Congress but also of India, he might at least get the opposition leader's post.
Right. Faisal, when we take a look at then what the voters are actually voting for and how much influence the BJP has on state institutions, on the media, and of course, by and large, there are huge allegations of rigging in terms of what we've seen before and what is expected. So when we take a look at the decision maker, the voter, and them actually considering all of these aspects, including the ones that Farrukh has mentioned, including, of course, the one that the opposition alliance has been talking about. Is that really playing a role in who actually is showing up and who actually is voting for which political party? Or is it, again, at the end, something that's irrelevant to the discussion and only what influence the BJP is still carrying through all the different state apparatus is what really matters?
Yes, and obviously when we talk about pre-poll rigging, I mean the kind of steps which were taken by the BJP government in recent past, of course they are being considered as pre-poll rigging, and this is unprecedented in the Indian elections. I mean, it never happened before. I mean, if it did happen, then it had some sort of grounds that it happened, and the magnitude and the volume was not that big. But this time around, if they are doing so, and if they even had to reach out to X as well, I mean, forget about the media houses and the private media houses and the Doordarshan and everyone is of course bidding for BJP right now in India when it comes to the media houses. But talking about the social media, X, other day I was going through one of the
whose
statements.
owner is going to visit India very soon, and he actually stated that we are going to withhold any tweet in India that has anything to do with the elections of India. So this is what is actually at play, that they have controlled. The reason being, I agree with Farrukh when he says that this alliance, it has actually dented BJP, and it has created a deterrence for BJP. And somewhere down the line, of course, if we look at the previous elections as well, I mean, in the majority of the seats where BJP won, if we take the second and the third position and the fourth position parties, of course, if we add up their votes, their vote would be, I mean, larger than what BJP took in them constituencies. So in this case, when we have all of these parties joining hands in different constituencies, then bidding on only one person, and I think in that case BJP is facing a challenge, and BJP would be facing a challenge, and probably this is why in recent days we have been seeing that BJP was under pressure, and being under pressure, they were making these kind of decisions when it came to taking
arresting the opposition leaders and putting them with fines and whatever was taking place, it was actually part of it. And to me, I think it would be a very interesting election to look at, and the results. I'm anxiously waiting for the results. Reason being that this election is key. This election is too important for India and for Indian constitution as well, because there is the very first paragraph of Indian constitution actually declares itself as an secular state. But after this election, will India remain secular, or will India's constitution remain secular? That is the biggest question which is need to be asked right now. And to me, if BJP is coming into power once more, and Modi or his associates, as there was a movie called The Dirty Dozen, I mean, Modi and his Dirty Dozen, if they are able to form a government once more, then it would be interesting to see what kind of India we see in coming future.
Right, and it may just have been a slip of tongue, but it brings me to the question of how important these elections are, in fact, for Pakistan and other countries in the regions, and what exactly is going to be the impact of these elections, or the fact that we have another BJP term in India that has on peace and security in the region, particularly in terms of fight against terrorism, in terms of what our foreign policy decisions are, in terms of what India as a regional player is going to be, is the role that India is going to be playing in this regard. Farrukh?
Okay, a question for me.
Yes.
I just wanted to actually clarify two things that were said earlier by Faisal. One is regarding the constitution, right? And this is one more thing that the opposition has been agitating about. And only an hour ago, Amit Shah, who is number 2 in BJP right now, actually came on air on NDTV and actually announced that he can personally guarantee that the constitution will not be tampered with if BJP actually wins. So that is
Will it be followed?
Yeah, it will be. I mean, their strike rate regarding their manifesto promises has been quite good, by the way. Whether you like it or not, Ram Mandir and all the others, at least they show you that whatever they say, including Article 370, they deliver what they said, right? So if they are automatically saying that they are not going to change the constitution, I don't have any reason to actually doubt that. Now, regarding earlier Faisal was calling Hindutva, an ideology. With due respect, because of Gujarat model, it is essentially a business model. It is a business model that we are going to actually pressure people and place them in their own place, right? Put them in their own place. And then you can make as much money as you want if you are a businessman, and we are going to give you the profit. And that is what BJP seems to have delivered. So that business model stays, and through hook or crook or whatever means possible.
By hook or by crook.
Yeah, whatever. But they have been able to at least assure the investor that whatever you do, your investment is safeguarded. So that is not an ideology, that is a business model, and it works. Now, regarding Pakistan, I think BJP is good for Pakistan. Okay. It makes you look good internationally, whatever it does to their own people. And secondly, they have been actually indicating that they want to build peace with Pakistan, and of course, once they win. But by the way, let me also tell you, because I pointed out that, and Tamil Nadu situation and other places as well, because that is essential, that this idea of Narendra Modi, and give him his credit that he has actually changed the direction of narrative, right? Earlier it was said that BJP may not get 180 seats, and all of a sudden he says, "Abki baar 400 par." And everybody is asking whether they are going to get 400 or not. But this time BJP, because it hasn't been able to so far open an account in Tamil Nadu, or for that matter South, where Dravidian region, because of that I don't think that they're even going to move close to 370 or 400, and because of that they might need influence with other countries. I tell you, there is a reason why Pakistan actually can look forward to Narendra Modi being re-elected, because they want to actually seek a permanent seat in the UNSC. What does that mean? Their constitution, their manifesto is indicating that they haven't mentioned China or Pakistan. They want to, they actually talk about, regional collaboration. So what do you need? You need China and Pakistan on board if India wants to succeed in its UNSC bid. So I think that in coming days, but even then I'm going to warn everybody who's watching, don't expect India Alliance to underperform.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Thank you, Farrukh. Thank you, Faisal, for joining us and being a part of the discussion. That's all that we have from the debate. We'll now see you tomorrow.